ever tried to run Facebook or Instagram ads, or you're thinking about running them, then you need to know all about the Facebook pixel. But not only about the Facebook pixel, you need to know exactly what it does, how to create one, how to install one, how to test that it's working properly. And if you stay till the end of this video, I'm going to tell you how you can ensure that you see your pixel data, how it correlates with your ads so that you can make better advertising decisions that bring you more revenue from your advertising dollars. Don't forget to like this video, comment if you have any comments, or subscribe to my channel to get more step-by-step tutorials just like this one on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, digital marketing, content marketing, and more for local businesses or marketing agencies. First and foremost, what is a Facebook pixel and what does it actually do? Simply put, your pixel is a piece of code that's installed on your website, funnels, or landing pages and is also tied to your Facebook page and your ad account. This is allowing Facebook to see everything that's taking place, including the demographics of the people who are taking action, what they're doing, how frequently they're doing it, and allows you to tell Facebook what you would like to see more of. Without this pixel, it's going to be very difficult for you to ever retarget your visitors, but most importantly, you'll never truly be able to optimize for the specific results you want or be able to see the results that you've received. So making sure that this is set up properly is of the utmost importance. The question is, do you have it set up correctly? Let's go ahead and dive in so I can show you every single step of setting up your Facebook pixel properly, troubleshooting, and the best practices as well as some mistakes that you're going to want to avoid. What you're going to want to have right now is your Facebook ad account or business manager account. You're going to have website access to the back end, as well as any landing page builders, funnel builders, to make sure that we can install the code exactly where it needs to be, and you don't have to hop around looking for those passwords. The first thing that you're going to want to do is go to Facebook Business Manager. You can find that at business.facebook.com. If you do not yet have a business manager, go to business.facebook.com/overview, and you can create one really simply and easily. Once we're inside Business Manager, we then want to select the appropriate Business Manager account if you have more than one, and then we are going to click on Business Settings. Business Settings is a very important part of Business Manager, and it really controls a lot of the back-end access, all the different assets that your ad account is going to have access to. Once we're inside of Facebook Business Settings, we're then going to click on the Data Sources dropdown. Once we're there, there will be a tab titled Pixels. Once we click on that, we will see every existing pixel that is already inside of your business manager with a name and who owns it. When you click on that pixel, you're also going to see the pixel ID, which is very, very important. This pixel ID is how you're going to be able to verify that the right pixel is installed on your website or pages. One plugin that you're absolutely going to want to get for this is called Facebook Pixel Helper. This is a very simple to install, easy to use Google Chrome extension that will show you which pixels are installed on any given website and what that ID is. It's also going to show you which standard events, which we'll talk about in a little bit, are installed on any given page. This can be one of those final steps in verifying that everything's done correctly. And it also is a really good way to show you if the pixel you have installed on your site is even the pixel you think it is. Sometimes it may be someone else's pixel that they own, and you're simply not going to be able to continue with some of these steps unless you own your pixel inside your business manager account. As you can see, I have a lot of different pixels in this account, but these are not all pixels for my website. These are pixels for clients and students and people that I'm working with. A lot of times I see people have 10 or 20 pixels for their own business. That's simply not necessary. One pixel can really go on any of your digital assets. The only time that you would want to create a secondary pixel is if the audience for the business is completely different. For instance, if you have a commercial real estate company and a residential real estate company, it's possible that you would want two separate pixels because the people that are going to those websites and engaging and taking those actions, they're very different. One is a potential homeowner. One is a commercial business owner. They're not the same demo. Because of that, you may not want to group them together. However, there's also nothing wrong with having the same pixel and using different standard events to track the actions that are taking place. So make sure that you're not using lots of different pixels to track one website. Otherwise, it can get extremely confusing. That's oftentimes when people don't know the pixel ID that's even installed because they have too many. So try and keep this simple. One pixel is all you really need to focus on for now. So if you already have a pixel, like I mentioned, you'll see it right here on the screen. Once you see that pixel ID, I want you to click to copy and paste it in somewhere like a Google Doc or your notes, because we want to make sure that we're keeping track of this as we go through the process so that it's easier to verify later. If you do not have a Facebook pixel, it's very easy to set one up. We're simply going to click on the Add button, and then it's going to say Allie Bloyd Media's pixel. You can name this pixel whatever you want. You are the only person that will see this name. Then it's going to say, check your website for easy setup options. You can do that, but I prefer to install the pixel using code. We'll also go through a couple of different ways you can install that pixel. But if you want to check out if you have a Wix site or a Squarespace site, maybe you're not even sure what type of website you actually have, that could be a really good option for you to select. It does say optional, so just know you can click continue without having to put that in. You'll now see a screen that asks you if you're ready to set up your pixel. We have continue managing my business, which will allow you to set it up later, or set up the pixel now. We're going to click set up the pixel now. You then have three separate options. One of them is adding a code using a partner integration. That's sometimes a good option for certain website builders. But again, I prefer to manually add the pixel code to the website because I do think that overall it's faster, it's easier, and a lot of times it's more effective. So the third option is to email instructions to a developer. If you simply have no understanding of the back end of your website or how to navigate on these different platforms, you may simply want to email this to someone who does and send them this video so that they can go through the rest of these steps. We are going to click on manually add pixel code to website. As you can see, we are going to be able to simply click this button and copy our entire base code right then and there. There's a couple of things that you're going to want to look at on this screen. Turn on automatic advanced matching. We do want to turn that on. So that's going to allow Facebook to better track the visitors that are going to your site, that are engaging with your business, making sure that they're actually matching that activity up with the user profile. Step number 3 is to test the base code. So we can't do that until we've actually installed our pixel code. So let's go ahead and install this pixel code and you can see just how easy it actually is. I'm going to show you how to install this base code on 2 different types of websites or website builders, and I'll also give you some suggestions for other types of sites and what you may need. This is a WordPress site, which I found is probably the most common type of website that people typically have today. There are a couple of different ways that you can do this, but the way that I prefer is to use a plugin called Insert Headers and Footers. If you do not have that plugin, you're simply going to go to Plugins and Add New. You'll type in Insert Headers and Footers in the search box. You're going to see that pull up and you will click on Install Now. Once that's installed, you do want to click on the Activate button in your Plugins tab. Once it's activated, you're then going to hover over the Settings tab in your WordPress dashboard, and you will see Insert Headers and Footers. We'll simply click on that, and then you'll see the very first section says Scripts in Header. If you already have this plugin, you may have code in there already. You want to double check that you don't already have a Facebook pixel code there. We don't want to install more than one pixel on your site. Again, that's a very easy way to be confused moving forward. It's really easy to spot if you already have this code installed because the beginning of the code says Facebook pixel code, and it's going to have some arrows that are coming out from it. So it's very easy to spot if this code is installed, but please do take a second to look for it. If you don't see it, and even if you do already have code in this section, that's okay. Just go to the last line and hit enter. And then we're simply going to paste what we just copied from that dialog box. Then we're going to hit save and we're good to go. The next step, we'll be testing this through the Facebook Pixel Helper Chrome extension, or we can hop back into that dialog box in Facebook Business Manager and test that that base code has been installed. Enter your website URL into that dialog box so you can tell Facebook to check on this traffic and make sure that your pixel is there, is active, and is successfully installed. So the next part of the dialog box is going to be install your standard events. Standard events are really what Facebook is using to determine the actions that people are specifically taking in relation to your ad account, your Facebook or Instagram page, or on your website. These are very, very important. There are two different ways to set this up. The first way would be to use Facebook's event setup tool, which you can see on this dialog box right now. The second way is to manually add this event code, and you'll see this on the left-hand side of that dialog box that says manually add event code. I'm going to show you how to manually add this event code first, because while Facebook's event setup tool can be really simple and easy, it has been known to have glitches and have problems that will prevent you from being able to add that code at all. If you run into that issue and don't know how to do it manually, you will not be able to add an event to those pages, which could seriously impact the performance of your ads. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on manually add event code. You are then going to see a list of all of these different event codes. So you may be asking yourself, what is event code and why do I need it? Simply put, these event codes or these standard events, it's really what you're telling Facebook has happened on your account or on your website. One example would be an add to cart. If you are running any type of e-commerce business, something where people are checking out on your website, they're going to have to add a product to the cart. You want to know every single time that event takes place. That is an add to cart event. We also have an initiate checkout event. We have a purchase event. We have a schedule event. This is something that I use probably the most heavily for a lot of businesses, scheduling calls or scheduling appointments. You also have a submit application event, a complete registration event, or a simple lead. There are a lot of different types of events, and you may not use all of them. Likely, you won't use all of them, but there will be a handful that you use very frequently just based on the way your business operates and how you acquire customers. So these events will be how you track, but also how you tell Facebook what it is you're actually looking for from your ads so that they can seek out other people who have a history of completing actions similar to that through the ads on Facebook and Instagram. This is one of the most confusing parts for almost everyone I know, because when you click on a drop down for any of these actions, for example, schedule, which is what I'm on right now, it's going to give you a 3-line piece of code. It also gives you another piece of code that you could also add. Most people don't know where to add this code. They don't know which piece of code to add. They don't know if they need to add it above their base code, below their base code, or on the specific pages themselves. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. What I would suggest is that you click on the event code snippet, which is the 3-line piece of code that you'll see as soon as you click on the drop down. Go ahead and copy that code to the clipboard. Ultimately, every single piece of event code looks exactly the same. The only difference is the word that's inside of the little parentheses. So it says schedule on this one. If this was a lead event, the only difference between this code and the lead code would be the word lead instead of schedule. So I find it much easier and much faster to save this snippet of code along with your base code and your pixel ID all in one document so that you have everything there and can pull from it at any time. You can check that ID, you can check that code at any time. Likely, this is something that you will have to do again if you ever add new funnels, new pages, or new destinations that you want to track through Facebook and Instagram. So while you're in here, make sure that you simply copy these and paste them somewhere else so you don't have to try and figure out how to get back to this screen. It can be quite difficult if you haven't done it before, so just make sure you take a minute to save it right here and now. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that and then we'll move on. As you can see on this document that I've set up, I have my pixel ID, which is the number that is associated with your pixel. I've also pasted my base code. You'll see that your pixel ID is in that base code 2 separate times, about halfway through and right before the end. You'll also see that I've pasted that standard event code, and I've also listed out 4 different events that I personally think I'm going to use. When we're adding this 3-line snippet of code, if I were to change it to complete registration, I would simply put the words complete registration in between right here. But it's going to be one word, no spaces, even if there's 2 words, and the first letter of each word does in fact need to be capitalized. So you really can customize this piece of code on your own without having to go back into Business Manager, go into the Pixel section, go into Events Manager, try and find the standard event code. Doing it this way is a lot faster and a lot easier, but I will also show you how to use the event setup tool if you're not quite sure that you're ready for something like this yet. So then I have those 4 different events that I intend to use, which is going to come in handy when we do our aggregated events management. Now that we've installed your base code on a website, I want to show you how you can add your code to individual landing pages, which a lot of you may be doing quite frequently. And then I'll also show you how to use the event setup tool, which is what I would suggest after your base code has been installed on something like WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, or any other type of website builder that's not a landing page or funnel builder. You can use the website event setup tool with a funnel builder, but I much prefer to do it individually because we're already going to be going in, adding the code, changing the metadata, and this is a really easy step to add in. So the first thing that you want to do is go to your preferred landing page builder. Most of them are set up fairly similarly, so you should be able to navigate to this section pretty easily no matter what tool you're using. The first thing we're going to do is hop out of the funnel itself, and we can install the base code in the entire funnel. This is something that can be personal preference. Oftentimes, I like to do each page individually to make sure that if there should be an event on that page, that I'm considering it and I'm adding it manually instead of just assuming that the code's on the entire funnel and I don't need to do anything else. If you were going to add that base code to your funnel, in the overall funnel, not on an individual page, you're going to go into the settings. There's going to be a section very similar to what I showed you with the WordPress site that says head tracking code. We're simply going to paste that same base code in that same spot and hit save. In order to do these on your individual funnel pages, we're actually going to go to our very first page. And we're going to take a look at this funnel first and say, what types of events should we be installing? So this is an example of one of my 5-day challenge funnels. The first page is the opt-in page. Is an event taking place on that page? And if so, how would I know? Well, yes, an event is taking place. Somebody is registering for the 5-day challenge. However, the way that I know that they've registered is if they hit that second page. So we've got two options here. I could install my standard event code for complete registration on the second page, because somebody's going to end up on the second page if they complete that registration. Or we could take that URL and I could use the event setup tool to track the button that would be clicked when somebody completes that registration. So I'll show you how to do that both ways. So we're going to head and click edit on the individual funnel step. Then we're going to go into settings again, and tracking code is the second option down. You're then going to be on that header code section once again. Once I've got my tracking code dialog box open, I'm going to pop over to this Google Doc that luckily I have handy so that I can simply copy and paste without having to dive into Business Manager. So I am going to paste the entire pixel code first because I did not set this pixel code up on the funnel as a whole. If you have it set up on the funnel as a whole and then add your base code to your individual page, you run the risk of your pixel firing twice for every event. That is not necessarily something that you want to risk. So make a decision to either do this individually, page by page, or to set up your base code on your website or funnel as a whole in the main header of your site, and then use the event setup tool to track the remainder of your events. So I'm doing this step by step because, again, it is very important to understand how to do this just in case something goes wrong. So now I have added those 3 simple lines right below my pixel code, and I'm going to hit save. Now I'm going to save the funnel page, and I am going to hop out of that specific page, and we're going to test that in just a little bit. So again, you want to look through every page on your website, every page on your funnel, and even certain buttons on your funnel that may not be associated with a website page. You want to ask yourself, would I like to know if this happens? Would I like to know if one of my ads caused this to happen? Would that be valuable information to me? Would that change the way that I utilize or run this ad? If the answer is yes, you definitely need to add your standard event code. I'm now going to show you how to use the event setup tool to track buttons, track URLs, or track individual pages. So we need to go back into Business Manager, but this time we're not going to pixels. We are going to the Events Manager tab. So you can see I'm on the Events Manager tab, and I have selected the same pixel that I've installed on my website and funnel. Again, verify that that pixel ID that you see is the same as what you pasted in your Google Doc, is what you installed on your website or landing pages. So now that I've verified that this is in fact the same pixel, because again, I will stress, if you have different things set up for different pixels, you only have one pixel installed on your website. It's not going to be tracking any of these things that you're attempting to set up. That one number can change everything. So take an extra second anytime you're dealing with your pixel and verify that that number is in fact your own. As you can see on this page, I've got different events below my pixel activity. The standard events that I have set up and that I'm using are page view, lead, submit application, view content, schedule, complete registration, customized product, and contact. So some of them, as you can tell, are used a lot more than others, but all of those are events that I want to know about. So this is for the last 28 days. You can obviously customize the length of time that you want to see that, but you can see that they each have a green dot underneath that event, and it says the word active. That is what you want to see. So initiate checkout and add to cart. Those are events that I have, but they're more of a yellow color. It says no recent activity. those are not events that I use very much because I'm not primarily selling e-commerce products on this pixel. If that is something that you're doing, those should absolutely be green as well. So you can have events set up that are active, because as you can see, we've had 31 initiate checkouts in the last 28 days, but it's simply letting me know there hasn't been a lot of recent activity. That can be a really good indication that you may simply want to check that out, especially if it's an important event for you as a business. In order to go ahead and use this event setup tool, we are going to find this button that says Add Events. Once you click on the drop down, you are going to select the option that says From the Pixel. If you selected from a new website, that would take you right back to the very first dialog box that we went through to create a brand new pixel. And we also have an option to use the Conversions API, which I don't think we're going to get to talk about today, but can be a really great way to track. However, it is a bit more advanced. So when we click from the pixel, it's going to tell me, let's add our events using the event setup tool. So I simply need to click on Open Event Setup Tool, and then I'm going to type in the website URL of the page in which I want to track. So keep this in mind. If I want to track that an event has taken place, most of the time, I want to track the page that they go to after that event has been submitted. If you are not redirecting people to new pages, if you're using a success message, for example, on a form that says, thank you for submitting your form, we'll get back to you as soon as possible, and they never go to another page, you have to use the event setup tool in order to track this. If you are redirecting someone to a thank you page or to a next steps page or any type of alternate destination after they complete one of these actions, you can use either one, but I do prefer to manually add that event code. For instance, when someone schedules a call with me and my team, they book on the calendar on one page, and as soon as that booking is finalized, they go to a thank you page that tells them what is going to happen next. That is the page I want to add my schedule event code onto, because I know that no one ends up on that page that has not scheduled. It's the only way to get to that page. So I know this can be a little bit confusing, but ask yourself, where does someone go when they take this action? Do they stay on the same page, in which you must use the event setup tool, or do they go to a new page in which you can use either option? So I'm going to go ahead and just type in allybloydmedia.com/challenge. We're going to take a look at one of the pages I already have a pixel installed on. Once you see this page fully loaded, you should see a window pop up. If you do not see a window pop up, then you probably have a pop-up blocker on and you need to disable that. If you have made sure that your pop-up blocker is disabled and you still do not see this dialog box that's showing on the page right now, it's probably a good time to go back a little bit in the video and simply install the pixel code manually. You could try and fight against this and hopefully it will work, and sometimes it does, but ultimately this is why you want to know that the pixel code can be installed manually and how to do it so that this won't hold you back from getting this pixel properly set up. As you can see, it says Facebook Event Setup Tool on this left-hand side. It says events on this page. No events found on this page. That does not mean your pixel is not installed, okay? It means you don't have any of the standard events added to this specific page. You would not even be able to pull up this dialog box if your pixel base code was not installed. So that is a really great sign that you've done every step up until this point properly. We have two different options here. We can track a new button, or we can track a URL. If you want to track this URL, that would likely mean that it's a thank you page, because again, tracking an action that's being redirected, that should be done on the thank you page. There's very few times when you simply want to know if somebody's on a page. That will be tracked through your pixel. That can be set up through custom conversions, through audiences. There really isn't a need to track an event on a page that nothing is actually happening. So in this specific case, we're going to track this button because that is the event. That is what is happening on this page that we want to know about. So if I were to click track a URL, I would simply click that button, select the event that I want to track. In this case, it would be view content because nothing else about being on this URL is telling me what's going on. I could choose a value of what this event is worth to me. If you're an e-commerce business, this can be very easy. If you're not an e-commerce business, it could be a great time to really dig in and research those numbers, but you do not have to include a value. So if you're not sure, click Don't Include Value, and then simply hit confirm, and it's going to show you that that event is set up. I am going to click on Track New Button because that's what I want to track. You can see that it is automatically putting these squares around the buttons on this page, and it's darkening out the rest of the page so that we can simply click on that square, which is our button, and now select our event. So if somebody is opting in for this, they become a lead. So I could use the lead event. I could also use complete registration event. At the end of the day, these events are really only as good as where you use them. As long as you know where specific events are being used, you can use that. I'm not going to use the purchase event on this page because that's not what's happening. So the closer the event is to what's actually taking place, at least the way that you see it, that's what you want to use. And I'd highly encourage you to also keep a list of which events are being used where, because if you are not doing this on a daily basis, that could get really confusing. So I'm just going to click on lead. I'm not going to include value. I'm going to click confirm. And then I'm going to have to click finish setup in the top right of that dialog box. It's showing me what events I've added and asking me to finish. And now I know that if I go back to our events management area, I should see a green dot with the word active next to the lead event if I go to that very same URL so that I can give it some test traffic. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we are going to do that actually in the Facebook Pixel Helper plugin, because this plugin will allow you to verify that everything has been set up correctly. The one thing that can take place when you're doing this is that it could take Facebook a couple of minutes to really see that that test traffic has been sent. So if you use the Facebook Pixel Helper, you can see with your own eyes that this was set up properly. And even if it hasn't turned green just yet, give it a little bit of time. Don't freak out. Don't try and start over thinking that you did something incorrectly. You simply need to wait it out because you've already been able to verify in another way that this is something that has been done the right way. If you've never installed a Google Chrome extension before, trust me, it's really easy, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. The official name for this plugin is Facebook Pixel Helper. What you're going to do is make sure that you are in the Google Chrome search browser. If you don't have Google Chrome, just type in Google Chrome, click on the first link that comes up and download it for either Mac or PC. But because I already have Chrome open, I'm going to type in Facebook Pixel Helper. And then you will see the very first result is the Facebook Pixel Helper plugin from Google. If you already have it installed, you will see a button that says Remove from Chrome. So that's a good way to know if you already have this. If you don't have it installed, it'll say Add to Chrome. Simply click on that button. And once it's installed, which takes just a second, you now want to pin it to the top of your browsing window. This is really important because if it's installed, but you can't see it on any of these pages, it's not going to do you much good. To do that, you click on this little puzzle piece and you can see the extensions that you have installed. If you have a lot of extensions, then you're not going to see quite a few of them at the top of this screen right here. So you would simply click on this little push pin to pin it to the top of your browsing window. We've already got ours up there, and this is what it looks like. It's that square with the two pieces of code inside of it. When this is active, it will turn green. When it is gray, it means that it is not recognizing a pixel. So let's go ahead and plug in the URL that we just set up. And now you can see that Google Chrome Facebook Pixel Helper extension is now blue instead of gray, and it has a green box with the number 2 in it. It's really, really important. So we want to click on that, and now you can see that one pixel is found on allybloyd.com. It'll tell me the pixel ID right below that. I want you to verify that that pixel ID is in fact the one that you intended to use. This is one of the biggest mistakes that I see. People with too many pixels installing the wrong pixels, or maybe there's a different pixel on one funnel, a different pixel on their website, a different pixel on another funnel. That is not going to help you at all. It's really going to hurt you because you're not going to be able to retarget all of those people in one audience. You're not going to build that data that will allow Facebook to send your ads to a more qualified audience in the future. So really, one pixel, unless it is very specific circumstances in which your audiences would not be the same. So verify, verify, verify. I really cannot overuse that phrase because it is that important. The next thing that we want to do is check to see if there are events that are installed. So this is the one thing that I do not love about the event setup tool. This button was tracked, not this URL. So it is not going to show me a standard event code. I'm going to take a look at another URL so that you can see the way that that would look. We're going to take a look at my thank you for booking a call page. So as soon as somebody schedules a call, they're going to land on this page. So it's a very important one for me because this is the primary event that I want to take place from my ads. Once we're on this page, you're going to be able to see that Facebook Pixel Helper plugin right up top. It's blue, so we know that there is a pixel installed. It has a little square in green with the number 3. So I do know there's something else on there, but I actually want to click on that so I can take a look. The first thing we're going to do is verify that pixel ID is in fact accurate. The second thing we're going to do is look for these green check marks to tell us which events are tracked on this page. Page view is tracked on every single page in which the pixel is installed. So that should always have a green check mark. But you'll also see the word schedule with a green check mark next to it. That means that that standard event was installed successfully and correctly, and it is tracking. The only downside to using the event setup tool, especially with buttons, is that you may not see that tracked in the Facebook Pixel Helper because it's not tracking the URL, it's tracking one specific element on that page, which again could be a good reason to make sure that you install the code manually so that you can ensure that it's done 100% accurately every single time. But that also means you would need to redirect any form submission, any purchase, any action you want someone to take instead of using something like a success message. You may think that you're done, but there are still 2 more critical steps that you need to take right now. There's going to be a video on your screen. You can click on that video and start the process of your domain verification and your aggregated events management tab. Both of these were introduced with the iOS 14 update and are very important now that those changes are enacted.